Are you satisfied with your understanding of sustainability? If you are not, imagine a journey together, a pluralistic one, with academia, innovators, startups, NGOs, all looking for solutions to the greatest challenge of our time. My name is Samuele Tini, and this is the Sustainability Journey. Welcome to another episode, and today I'm thrilled to go and discuss with one of the pioneers of the B Corp movement in India. Actually, the first impact investing firm to be granted the B Corp certification, Caspian. And we do it with Avishek Gupta, who is the managing director and CEO of Caspian Debt, one of the two divisions, and we'll discuss about that. Avishek, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you for inviting me on your podcast. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Avishek, I'm really thrilled because a B Corp in India, that is now you will become soon the fastest economy in the world. You are the engine of the emerging market. But before going there, I want to discuss about you. What is your journey? How you have become a change maker in sustainability?
I am currently the managing director and CEO of Caspian Debt, which is focused on providing capital to companies and businesses that work towards creating positive social and environmental impact. Before becoming the managing director and CEO of Caspian Debt, I have been with Caspian for close to 9 years now. I joined as an investment manager and over a period of time, essentially grew the business to the scale that it currently is. I have personally been passionate about creating change using business as a tool. So even before Caspian, I used to work with another organization which is now called Dwara Holdings, which is one of the largest or most innovative financial inclusion focused holding companies in India. I worked with them for about 6.5 years across multiple verticals. So I used to, for example, I helped set up a structured finance vertical for making it easier for social enterprises doing small business lending or affordable housing finance to get access to capital market financing. So I helped build that desk there. Prior to that, I was more managing a portfolio of companies that were solving problems in different rural supply chains like dairy, agri, clean energy, water and sanitation, and so on. I started my career building dairy supply chain company that was providing technology solutions to rural financial institutions to enable the rural financial institutions to offer cattle insurance and cattle healthcare packages to dairy farmers living in remote rural India. And we did this across 3 states, was reasonably successful, but we unfortunately had to fold up because of lack of funds. And this was, several years ago, close to 15 years ago, when venture funding in ag tech was not cool. Otherwise, this would have been an ag tech, insurtech company back then, and God knows how much funding it would have raised. My background academically is that I did my MBA in rural management from the oldest Indian college in rural management space called the Institute of Rural Management, Anand. I happen to be a dairy technologist, so I've done a BTech in dairy technology and a master's in dairy chemistry before doing the MBA from Institute of Rural Management. So I am somebody who has always been associated with rural and development academically and professionally.
This is wonderful, Abhishek. You can see the purpose already embedded and the work that you have started at the grassroots level, and now you are enabling the positive change with the impact that Caspian is delivering. And I want to ask, what is the problem now that you are facing and trying to solve? No, investment for social, environmental impact, and how you are trying to solve it.
First of all, when it comes to the world of investments and corporate finance, I think long back the economists and the market players have simplified the role of business entities to a great extent. And they've simplified it to saying that whatever a business should do should be for the benefit of the shareholders. Whatever an investment manager should do is to give better returns to the investors. Unfortunately, all of this is limited to financial returns. Nobody really had the conversation about social and environmental because it was complex. But I think that simplification has led to a situation where for decades, we have lived in a world where people are just focused on financial returns and they're kind of not considering the social and environmental impact of the businesses, when in reality, every business has that impact. If you look back in ancient history, the way humans led their lives, there was always this consideration for the community in which you operate and the society in which you operate. Unfortunately, I think this simplification of economics and business goals in probably 30 or 40 years ago led to a situation where it made things easier for people to track and invest in, but it also ignored a lot of things. So the primary problem for us is to be able to identify a reasonable volume of capital that is actually aware of the fact that if you want to get long-term viable returns, it means that you have to take social and environmental aspects into consideration. Unfortunately, that doesn't come naturally to major sources of capital. Most traditional sources of capital wants to keep it simple and very I would say monodirectional, with a focus only on financial returns. I think that's a mindset issue. That's the big problem. But so that's a problem on the side of capital. On the other side, essentially, if you look at countries like India, especially the entire developing world, and now increasingly even the developed world, issues of inequality and lack of access to essential products and services are at such low levels that quality of life and over a period of time, the overall success of the economy is hampered. You mentioned a little while ago is that India has one of the largest populations, which is true, but from a productivity or value contribution perspective, it is not there. A lot of efficiencies get wasted because a lot of us do not get the appropriate opportunities. We do not get the cushion of appropriate essential services or support. It is necessary, unfortunately, for a population as large as this to get access to such facilities. Only then they can grow, and in turn, the country and the overall economy as a whole to grow. The government alone cannot do it. I think government has a big role to play, but it is limited by resources. And I think that is where the role of businesses becomes important to contribute towards that. It is well understood that businesses will do it in a sustainable way. They can't do it like a non-profit. There are, of course, some aspects of social support that need to be done through the non-profit way. Anybody who says that non-profits are not needed is actually lying, in my opinion. But a significant part of improving lives has to be done in a sustainable way through businesses which take into consideration how am I impacting the lives of people who work in my company, how am I impacting the lives of people who buy product and or utilize services of my company, how am I impacting the environment. These kind of considerations need to come, which makes it more complex. See, if I look at it from the perspective of a small business that is trying to do all of this, life gets very complex for that person. How is it? So the other problem that we have is how can we help such people simplify their goal setting so that they can include not just the financial returns, but also the social and environmental returns in the way how they judge the success of the business. So can a lot more number of companies, enterprises, judge the success of the business by not just looking at the financial numbers, but also the social and environmental impact numbers, is a problem that we are dealing with. And we want to kind of work towards making that easier, because the overall social and environmental problems that India faces, be it poverty, be it malnutrition, be it gender inequality, be it lack of access to opportunities, poor economic growth, all of that is pretty well known to everybody. And while we can't solve all problems, businesses can play an important role by adopting an approach where they look at their success as a combination of financial, social, and environmental returns.
And this is really interesting. You can see the complexity and the work. And in all of that, to be an enabler of this ecosystem, to help businesses really go in and solve the problem you just mentioned in India and beyond, here come Caspian. How Caspian can be a catalyzer of change, how it works.
Caspian as a group is 20 years old. We started back in 2004, 2005 as the first domestic equity investor in urban microfinance in India. So back then, if you look at microfinance in India, it was mostly very local, regional, focused on rural and primarily driven by non-profits under some program supported by the government or some agent, multilateral agencies. The low income households did not live only in specific geographies in India, they live across the country, but those services were not available to them. So Caspian set up the first domestic microfinance equity fund called the Bellwether Microfinance Fund back then. That is how it started. We were the first investors, institutional investors in some of the small finance banks of today. They started off as microfinance institutions. So companies like Ujjivan, Janalakshmi, Arohan, Sonata, Equitas, we were very early. I mean, in the first few names that I mentioned, we were the first institutional investors in those companies. Those companies have today grown and some of them got listed, some of them are now banks, and so on. So that is how we started. Over the years, we've actually used that experience to seed and create new markets. So we were the first investors in urban microfinance in India, first investors in affordable housing finance in India through Micro Housing Finance Corporation. We were the first investors in affordable private school finance in India. Through companies like India School Finance Company and things like that. We were set up by this gentleman named Mr. Vishwanath Prasad. And when he set it up along with investors, kind of like-minded investors, the goal was to initially to build markets which were not kind of attended to by commercial capital providers, and build markets, take them to a scale where commercial market then starts getting interested in these industries. So microfinance, for example, now is an industry where mainstream commercial investors have started coming in. So our origins are that equity and impact focused businesses. We are not a general purpose equity investor. We invest only in businesses that create positive social and environmental impact. That's the purpose of our existence. So while we were doing a lot of these equity investments, we realized that in the impact space, for companies operating across different sectors, not just in financial institutions or financial inclusion, but in sectors like food and agri, clean energy, healthcare, education, all these areas which have a direct social impact, and all these areas where in a way, a lot of businesses needed to be set up to deal with the issues that we were facing, either on the social or environmental side. Few entrepreneurs were showing the interest as well, but they were not getting the support of loans or debt from local, traditional lenders. So we realized that that's a gap, and that was also a market opportunity for somebody like us to provide support to these typical first generation entrepreneurs building asset light businesses that is trying to solve a social and environmental problem in one of the sectors that I mentioned. The way in which they want to build a business, it is, even though they are not poor quality businesses, by design, they are not suitable for a traditional lender to make loans to them. So we tried to address that problem, and that is where Caspian Debt was set up. So Caspian today has two arms. One, Caspian Equity, which continues to make equity investments into different types of opportunities in the impact space. I run the Caspian Debt business, which is focused on providing customized debt and quasi-equity to companies working towards positive impact. Over the last 8 years, we have financed close to 230 social enterprises, startups, and financial institutions across sectors like Of course, microfinance, small business finance, and affordable housing finance. That's on the financial institution side. But a much larger number of companies are in the space sectors like food and agriculture, clean technologies, affordable education, affordable healthcare, water, sanitation, and so on. What we essentially do is we specialize in creating the legal vehicles into which we raise capital from different source types of capital providers. So we've got DFIs supporting us, development finance institutions. We've got impact investors putting in capital. We've also raised capital from pure mainstream commercial capital providers who don't care about impact as well. We've got support from foundations who provide soft capital. So we've taken capital from multiple sources, put it all together, and then driven the money as debt to high impact businesses. I'll give you a few examples of the kind of businesses that we fund, but basically figuring out how to blend all this money and drive it to high impact businesses which otherwise wouldn't have got funded by the traditional sources. So that is how we kind of catalyze driving capital into high impact opportunities.
It's really important this because the two arms and the work that you are doing, especially as you mentioned, and that is also my experience here, many of the social enterprises, they're really working even maybe at the grassroots level. It's very difficult, as you mentioned, to go to a traditional lender and to build that credit history. And that's why people like you and the work you are doing, it's really a catalyzer for change and the work. And I'm really interested now also the people that are listening to us, they want to see some of the success story of this work, of this almost now, wow, we are close to 20 years of work now. Can you share some impact stories with us?
The fact that we were able to create multiple new markets of, say, for example, urban microfinance, affordable housing finance, affordable school finance, and debt into social enterprises. These are four markets which were unaddressed by capital providers. Nobody has really been able to build scale in this. I think our success as an organization is basically being able to build each of these markets. If you talk about specific companies that we funded from the very first fund, companies like Ujjivan, today it is a small finance bank. Earlier it used to be a microfinance institution, was one of the first professionally managed, nationally scaled microfinance institutions. So that is a tremendous success story. We were the first institutional investors, and essentially it is because of Caspian's check that the company further then got a license, NBFC license to do the microfinance work in India. And it kind of started off from there. And I would count Ujjivan as one of the earliest success stories. When it comes to the debt business per se, and there are other companies like, say, Micro Housing Finance Corporation, which was the first domestic affordable housing finance company focused on micro mortgages. It got acquired by another entity a couple of years ago. So you would normally think that why would anybody want to lend to, for example, the maid or the taxi driver or an employee in a local shop? Why would anybody lend to them to buy a home? Nobody does in the traditional housing finance market. But this company basically established the processes and systems of being able to do it and do it well with a good credit quality, right? So, and you would also assume that this is something that is done with a good heart and charity, but they established a commercially viable model, which was why they were acquired by a commercial entity. On the debt side, I would, again, it's because we don't own these companies or we are not a shareholder in these companies. I don't know how much of a success we can claim on individual companies, but I'll give you a sense of the range of kind of companies that we work with. So if you look at a portfolio, on one end, you will find there's a poultry company, a company which is a farmer producer company owned by women farmers who do backyard poultry. So very small scale. So the company is run by women. They have a brand. They sell eggs. We basically started funding them in the middle of COVID, right? When COVID struck and they had troubles, we decided to go and make them a loan. This entity is, like I said, run by women. They are tribal women living in tribal regions in one of the poorest state in India called Jharkhand. It's not in the areas where you get a lot of opportunities easily. It's a difficult terrain, right? That is where this company has set up. So that is on one end. On the other end, we have, for example, till about some time ago, we were funding this Internet of Things company, which was helping factories save on water and chemicals. So it's a technology company. They basically put sensors in the factory at different locations to help the company save on water and chemicals. Right? It is a company that is co-founded by a woman. So that's the other extreme of impact. So, from that perspective, but it is a company that is leading to resource efficiency savings and is led by a woman, which are one of the themes that we are very passionate about. I mean, how do you bring gender lens into anything that we do? How do you bring about gender equity, in the process of us making these investments?
Well, I can see the wide and span of your work and the impact also that you are having, not only at the highest level, now commercial bank and now the biggest company, but also with the women at the grassroots level, but they are transforming their lives and empowering them, even as you said, in areas that are not the Mumbai or Bangalore or other, but really the rural India. And those are the impact and lending to the people that are unbankable in a way. I can see this work, and for your example and your passion, I can see how you put together profit, of course, in one end, because as you say, you are a sustainable business now for 20 years, but also purpose. And this comes at the core of what the B Corp movement is and how, the business for good and how the movement of transformation of capitalism, really not looking just, as you say, shareholders, but even the broad stakeholder and the community. So you have been now for many years a B Corp. You have been also best for the awards 2018, 2019. So, but you are not, let us say, in Vermont or California, the traditional states, we might say B Corp are, or the UK. You are in India. So how, why, which are the motivation, which are the advantages, why you have decided to be a pioneer of the movement in India?
Being a B Corp actually doesn't have any tax benefits or financial benefits in India. It has in the US, and I think in some states of US and some countries in Europe, but in India there is no separate recognition. So we've not done it for financial benefits. We've done it because so in whatever we do, we try to make sure that impact is at its core, right? So, and it's not always easily understood unless you spend reasonable amount of time with us to understand what we do. Even though we'll probably speak for about 20 minutes or now, you will get a good sense, but you will not get a good enough sense. And it is for somebody like you who understands this space that you will be able to understand much more. But a lot of the traditional financial sector folks, it's difficult for them to figure out what it is, right? So one of the reasons why we did this was we wanted to make sure that everybody an outsider who interacts with us understands what we do through the certification, because the certification does its own marketing and promotion, and it has established itself. And I think there is a decent amount of recognition on what having that certification means, right? So I think in a way we wanted to make our life easier, and in the process of communicating to others what we stand for. Of course, after somebody sees that we are a B Corp, like you found us, they ask us other detailed questions and they then understand what all we do. But B Corp essentially help us to kind of with a simple emblem communicate what we stand for or what we want to do. And when it comes to external people, it can be multiple types. It could be investors, for sure. But what we thought would be more interesting for us is to make sure that as the company grows, as our organization grows, we are able to attract the right kind of people who understands that this is an organization. If I work for this organization, only financial returns is not going to be of primary importance. Financial returns is important, but there are several other things that I want to make it important. I will get to work in an organization that promotes collaboration, that considers the impact of each of our work on the people around us, an organization that considers its impact on the employees and other stakeholders, very unlike typical traditional companies where the shareholders are the primary focus. So I think for us, getting to, it might sound a little arrogant, but reality is the whole impact aspect and the fact that impact and business can go hand in hand, unfortunately is not clearly understood by majority of the majority people. It is understood by a limited set of people, and we want to attract such people. And by using the B Corp certification, I think we've been able to clearly communicate that message in a growing company. So I think those were the two major reasons. We didn't have that kind of a certification in India, so we chose B Corp certification. We've actually been recognized by several agencies for our things like data transparency or our impact oriented work. But this certification essentially gave us the opportunity to codify what we do into that simple emblem, and make everybody aware, every new person who comes across us aware as to what we stand for.
And Avishek, what you said, it's really also part of what I've done in my research and the work. A lot of people say, really what you say, you condensate in this logo and this, the B Corp in the emblem, as you say, it's a long story short. It's a way to show the people to tell us where we stand, which are our values. And the second motivation is the one also many people is the one that also in the literature is the attraction of people of talent. When I see B Corp, I understand immediately Caspian, what it stands for. As you say, financial return is not our only purpose, not the prime purpose. We want to make an impact on people, on those women, as you said, that they are selling the eggs and the other one. So it's really a way, and it's really important, especially in a market like India, where it's not well known, just to get the right people that they have this burning passion for purpose and to make transformation, like you, because I really loved your episode because I can see your passion, your burning power. When you talk about your work, you can see that it's not just the work, it's something that also you are really changing life of people in your country, in India.
Thank you for, I mean, you are kind to say that. I don't know if I can change a lot of things, but I think 2 years of COVID should have made everybody think that, because I think COVID made us realize the value of our lives. I think all of us who are still living should be thankful for this life and do something about it, right? I mean, we could have been dead, probably make better use of our lives to make things around us better.
We are going towards the end. I want to ask you said especially after COVID, we need to do, and we know the crisis. We need to we have the responsibility as our generation to really do something good for this inequality and the problem we are facing. So, which is the way forward for Caspian? Where do you want to go, and how you can want even to more empower innovation in India?
So I think what we've been able to demonstrate in all these years is that we, as an investment manager or an investment intermediary, we have kind of developed this expertise of being able to identify good quality enterprises that create impact. So I think we have been able to demonstrate that. We've maintained very good portfolio quality, which is a demonstration of the fact that we have been able to identify good quality companies. Now, the other thing that we've been able to successfully do is, small amounts, but we've been able to attract capital from commercial sources, impact investors, soft capital providers, all of them. And we have actually demonstrated product structures or ways in which all of this can be brought together, and then debt capital can be moved to high quality impact creating enterprises. So I think we have demonstrated all of this in a small scale, but the need for debt for impact enterprises or impact creating enterprises is huge. We alone will not be able to meet the entire requirement. We want to bring in more capital from like-minded investors or even commercial capital providers in combination with like-minded investors to create more blended capital so that we can drive it into all these businesses. So essentially, we want to share our learnings, and we want to transition from being a direct capital provider to becoming a platform using which other investors, lenders can directly provide capital to these companies. We will, of course, continue doing this business of identifying these companies because that's what we specialize in. Going forward, we are hoping to raise funds and create a platform through which our ability to identify pipeline, do risk management, and ensure impact performance to the extent that you can within the debt constraints of debt. We will continue to provide that. Whereas the capital, and of course also provide capital as a demonstration of skin in the game. But can we use that to attract more capital, more DFIs coming in, more impact investors coming in, more commercial capital providers coming in? So essentially, over the next 3 years, we would want to grow 5 times in terms of assets under management. I mean, and that is going to be possible if we are able to partner with a larger number of investors. So just to kind of give you a sense, we are supported by the likes of FMO, which is the Dutch government's DFI. We are supported by Triodos, which is a Dutch investment bank. We are supported by USDFC, which is the development finance institution of the US government. We are supported by family offices. We are supported by several commercial lenders, entities like USAID, Rabo Foundation, Dell Foundation. All of these people work with us. Can we make our offerings available to a much larger set of entities, and can we attract them to work with us? Is what we are trying to look at. So that's what the future is. 5 times in 3 years, consistent debt access for impact creating enterprise in India.
This is a really what we call an ambitious goal, but I can see with your passion and the work and the kind of support, I can see you can have even increase and leverage your impact even more, and really getting more people, as you said, around and really help. And we hope also you can be not only India, of course, the focus is there, but also maybe expand even your model in other areas.
I would love to go to Africa and Southeast Asia, but we'll see how it.
This is a hope, and maybe I can see we can even discuss maybe in 1 year or 2 we see where Caspian has gone. As the last question, I know we will discuss even more because I can see it was a wonderful episode. The last question is usually a message, like the people are listening from all over the world to your, and I'm sure they have enjoyed a lot this wonderful episode. What do you want to leave to them, Avishek?
You've got only one life, no matter what different cultures say. I think it's responsibility and a matter of success for us as individuals of a life lived well. If you are able to positively contribute to the society around you, and if you are able to contribute positively to the future for your future generations. So you can't be restricted to a job that concerns you. You have to do something either as an entrepreneur or in whichever job you are. And you may be a teacher, you may be, an employee in an organization, whatever it is. You have to do it in a way that it has positive impact on other people's life. If one life is lived better because of your existence, it is in a way successful life. If that is not happening and it's only you who's benefiting, I don't know how that can sustain for the long term. So you have only one life. Try and make sure that you use that life to make lives of other people easier or better today and for the future.
And thank you so much. And this is also, I think, one of the purpose of the podcast, just to learn from change maker like you and try to give our contribution to change really and solve the problem. Thank you so much, Avishek. It's been a pleasure and an honor having you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samuel. Pleasure talking to you.
Are you satisfied after this wonderful episode? Let's continue together our sustainability journey.